Good afternoon, fellow island adventurers and island riders. Glad to have you along for the adventure again today. Today we are in East Suffolk on the Winter River Trail. And yeah, we went from 0 to like 15 centimeters of snow overnight, like less than 24 hours. And like we had no snow whatsoever before this. So it's just a crazy dump of snow and it's making for things to look very, very beautiful today. So I figured we'd get out and do a little bit of a hike. And I'm on the fence right now as far as how I want this hike to go. Looking at the trail right now, it's pretty beaten down. I brought a couple boot options. And as you can tell, I brought some other options as well, but I think I'm gonna end up hitting for the snowshoes. Which brings me to a point I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about supporting our frame. I wanted to talk about the number one thing that we should be concerned with before we step off on a hike or step off on a camp trip, and that's supporting our body, and we do that right at the feet. But before we get too far into it, let's check out the stats, let's hit the map, and let's take a look at what Winter River Trail looks like and has to offer. As I mentioned, the Winter River Trailhead is located in East Suffolk. That's a small outlying community from Charlottetown. The trail includes multiple loops, and they range from longer sections to smaller sections and to some shortcuts as well. All these individual sections can be grouped together to create a total hiking loop of about 7 kilometers. The terrain can vary through these loops. It goes from open trail to root and rock footpath and includes beautiful riverside scenery with some excellent deep woods atmospheres. Today, our route takes us through some of the highlights of this trail and makes for a total of about 5 kilometers. The temperature's not too bad today. I think we're sitting around, -2, feel like -5, so I don't have too many layers on. I do have an extra coat packed, but it's mostly base layers and a hoodie here and a toque. But those are some things that I can shed if I start to overheat a little bit. But the topic is not heating today, topic is feet. We're talking about boots. Today I brought a couple options for boots. Sitting in the car trunk is a pair of Gore-Tex boots, just regular hiking. And sitting on my feet, some mucklucks. I figured I'd take these as the first option, just to, because I knew it was gonna be some thick snow. And then my second option, which, you know what, I think I'm going to switch into right away here, are the snowshoes, because it is deep and on these mucklucks it's kind of uneven. So I'm getting a bit of a workout, but that's good. You want to get a workout after the holidays. That's what I'm filming this just after the holiday season. So I think I'm going to set up off to the side here, and then I get a next good clearing and set that up. So whenever I think of any kind of trail that I'm walking on or I'm hiking on or I'm going for an adventure on, I always think of like the highlights. And for me, I've picked out pretty much 3 highlights of the Winter River Trail that I really enjoy. And the highlight number 1, we're coming up on it now, is the river. And I know it's pretty obvious. It's a Winter River Trail, so obviously we're going to run into some river here. But there is a section of it that goes right up next to the river. It's really beautiful. It's a really nice and serene spot. Plus, it's really good for fishing too. So the river section of this trail is really good, be it in the summertime or be it in the springtime. It's actually a really, really cool place to chill out, set up a little day camp and have a nice little coffee or some sort of snack on your way through. I really enjoy it for fishing. Every spring, probably mid to late spring, I come down around this area and I do some trout fishing. And it's really good. You can hit pools all up and down as long as you have the proper licensing, of course. I find a spinner and a worm works just as good as fly in this case. One of the really good options too for flies is to actually use Royal Coachmans, woolly buggers, green machines, all that kind of good stuff. Wet or dry, it doesn't matter. You're probably going to get yourself a trout on this river eventually if you work at it. So we started talking a little bit about our frame and our feet. That's pretty much the best starting point for any kind of discussion on hiking and camping and anything that you really want to talk about with respect to moving around in the woods. Feet are probably the most important thing because they support your whole body, they support your whole structure, and it's a really precarious system and kind of ingenious at the same time, because when you think about it, your feet are holding up this whole body based on this little ankle joint, and then even on top of that you have only your knee joints. So the onus is on your whole body as a whole to provide this balanced and intricate support system. It's really difficult. It's really ingenious when you think about it. But there are some things that you need to observe when you start pushing the limits of that system. For example, if you start going on really, really long hikes, if you start strapping some weight onto things, and then pushing through upgrades and downgrades, and then over top of roots and crazy rocks, then you're going to need to have some sort of mitigation strategy. And for me, it starts with socks. Now, I've already mentioned a little bit about what I do with socks on a different video, but for all those who are not motorcycle enthusiasts and have come here for the hikes, I'm not sure if there's anybody that's done that yet, but who knows? We're all adventurers, regardless on what we do it on. You can check out the video above, and that'll take you to a bit of a loadout that I did for a trip that was actually really well done. I really enjoyed that. But the sock system works like this. You have one layer of socks that goes directly to the skin. Now that's a nylon sock, like a dress sock. Then you have another layer of sock, which is a wool sock, and that goes over top of that. That goes all into your boot, of course, unless you want to start walking around without boots, but I don't recommend that. The idea behind that is the nylon sock allows your foot to breathe and allows sweat to pass through it. The wool sock will wick that sweat away from your foot. The whole idea is that your feet stay dry and you're free of blisters. And dry socks are key. So whenever you're thinking about socks, whenever you want to get out and go camping, or whenever you want to go out for a hike, always pack an extra sock system, or two, depending on how long the trip is. And never be ashamed to stop in the middle of your hike, no matter how good the hike is going, no matter what kind of vibe you have, just to change all that out. Take the boot off, take the other socks, hang them off your backpack, and then put on a new pair. Wet feet are terrible. And, you know, if you don't have a waterproof boot and you get soaked, well, that's a game ender. So thinking about socks is a great start. Thinking about what you put over your socks, and your feet for that matter, is the next best thing to think about. So it's really tricky. What kind of footwear do you want to wear? Well, is it summer? Is it spring? Is there mud? Is there water? Is there just a ton of snow everywhere like we see here today? You know, all of that factors in. I had really a few options here today. I could have gone with a Gore-Tex lined, wet weather, kind of Arctic leather boot that I have, and it's got a big tread on it. And the tread is a nice soft rubber compound, so it's good on ice, and it doesn't slip. It also has a lot of ankle support. The leather is actually quite stiff. It's a really good option. You could go up over your ankle in these boots and they'll protect you from the water. The other option is the muckluck, and that's kind of what I got going on right now. Now the muckluck situation here, these are again slightly waterproof. I would say they're more water resistant, but the key part about them is the wool liner on this. So I could say I am definitely getting a leg workout today. But the one thing that I'm not having a problem with is pains in my ankles and pain in my feet. Now, the reason why is because I've got some added stability. So like we were just talking about what kinds of boots. Now, how about some pros and cons between the two? Now, we mentioned like if you have a flattened out area and there's a lot of roots and a lot of mud, maybe throw on like the regular old boots. Now, if you've got a lot of fresh powder and you've got some deep snow, well, maybe it's time for some mucklucks, because there might still be a path that's beaten down for you to walk on, which would be good. You know, that gives you some options there for those. And the mucklucks work a little bit like a snowshoe in that they flatten the snow down, and they also provide a high ankle so that you can keep the snow out of your leg and maintain some dryness there as well. But when it gets down to really thick snow and really heavy snow and really fresh powder, then, you know, they kind of drop off a little bit as far as, you know, a good option. So that's when the snowshoes come in. Now, a lot of what people think are that snowshoes just allow you to walk on top of snow. However, That is a little bit correct, but there's also a little bit more to it than just that. They give you more surface area for your feet, so your feet have a little bit more stability. There's less onus on your body to do all the balancing, so it's a bit of an easier walk through the heavy snow. In addition to that, you're kicking less snow. Now, if you were to just go with mucklucks or just go with a boot in heavy snow, you're going to find that you're putting in deep holes in the snow and you're pushing it around a lot. That'll take the stamina and the energy right out of your body really quickly, and it ruins a hike. Now, if you throw the snowshoes on, all of a sudden you're clamping down a lot of snow and there's not a lot of it to push with your ankles. So your legs still get a good workout, but they're definitely not tiring you out to exhaustion. Now you're going to find out pretty quick that I'll say that every single part of a hiking trail is my favorite part. But the deep woods section, or as I call it, the deep woods section, is really where the trail begins to close in a little bit, and the canopy gets a little bit thicker, and the light gets a little bit darker. So we're talking about all these new boots. We're talking about the pros and cons of them. So you finally find yourself a pair of boots that you think is going to cut it. And you like them. You like the look of them. They look cool and they have all the right things. They got that Gore-Tex word on them that you sprung for or you found in the back of a really cool army surplus area. So what do you do with them now that you got them? Wear them right out on the trail. Hike them. Hike the heck out of them. No, I advise against it. If you're in the market for blisters, by all means, go for it. But if you're in the market of breaking in boots, wear them around the house for like a few days. I'm not saying like traipse around all over the place. I mean, they're going to be clean boots, so you don't have to worry about mud, but break them in a little bit. It's going to go miles for you when you get into the hiking, when you get into the woods, and then you don't have to worry all of a sudden about getting a lot of bruises because your feet have already formed into the, soft and cushiony bits of the sole of the boot on the inside. One thing I find really cool about this section is once you get right into the deep section of the woods, the canopy covers over pretty much everything. Everything gets dark and it gets really cool. So if you've been overheating on your hike, you got a chance to lower your body temperature just to that sweet spot where you can start layering up again. So the last really notable section for me on this trail is what I like to call the boardwalk. And the boardwalk is an area that is, marshy, swampicity type terrain that has been, mitigated by having a boardwalk installed by the group that is responsible for looking after this trail. And saying that right away, I want to just give a big shout out to the Winter River Trackety Bay Watershed group who do look after this area and keep it in such good shape for everybody. And I also want to thank all the landowners that contribute land to this area and to all the areas on Prince Edward Island, because it really is awesome to be able to come out to PEI and no matter the season and be able to see so many cool spots like this. We're really, really lucky. And the reason why we're so lucky is because of people like yourself, and thank you very much. So let's take a look at this last little section because I think we're losing light. And I think it's time to wrap it up. Well, it's a little bit hard to see, but beneath all this snow, there's a boardwalk. So I guess the last piece of advice I could give you guys for boots would be to just lace them up, put them on, and go adventuring. Boots are great. You can have as many as you want, but if you never put them on and you never seek out those little places that lie on the other side of your comfort zone, then they'll never see adventure, and neither will you. But, I can tell you right now that we definitely haven't seen all of this trail. I hiked a lot of it, but not all of it. There's still lots left to be discovered. There's some hidden gems and areas of interest that I didn't go to, but I will leave that for your adventure. If any of you fellow island adventurers want to come out to the Winter River Trail in East Suffolk, by all means, lace up those boots, strap on an adventure, and enjoy. As for me, the light is getting low, and I think it's about time I shut her down and head home. Anyway, take care. Next time I see you, let's go adventuring together again.